emergency things happening.
Actually, if they had that rolling back and forth, it'd make more
If I
sense.
don't come back,
You're asking him to step up?
yes.
Good, since Ron is gone.
Yes.
How is,
So that's why there's
Yes.
always the possibility that I could step out and
Yep,
I may
not
not
come
come
back.
back. I might send somebody for
That one
myself.
she does not need it.
They would have to,
They can't just turn
do the temporary. Bad
for the
stuff.
departments that actually are getting the grant money.
So you never know what's going to happen.
Sorry to hear that.
So,
Hopefully it'll all be good.
I almost wrap it.
I guess.
let's rock and roll.
Yeah, let's rock and,
All right, well, are they in there and,
yep, they've been in there.
okay. Chris
Gotcha, okay.
will be right back. I don't think we need to wait for Chris.
No?
Said he had to go to his office quickly, so. All set? Okay. We will call to order the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners meeting for Wednesday, October 18th, 2017. If we could please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Bonnie.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor,
Here.
Lathrop.
Yep.
Johnson.
Here.
Gorfulet. Here. Crawford.
Here.
Commissioner Klaus is excused tonight.
We have approval of the minutes. We have the minutes of October 4th, 2017, regular meeting.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve the minutes of October 4th.
I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Mayer. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those are approved. This is our first chance for public comment. Bonnie, would you please read the rules?
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay, anyone for public comment?
Christine Maxbauer, 3773 Vale Drive, Traverse City, Michigan, East Bay Township. As a voter and taxpayer in Grand Traverse County, I was alarmed when I read this morning's Record Eagle article stating the Drain Commissioner is requesting a 400% salary increase. Then I read that our Drain Commissioner is only dedicating 4 hours a week to the position. If that is true, he and Grand Traverse County, that would be you, is in violation of state law. And the fact the Drain Commissioner admits it ought to alarm you. I am going to file a formal complaint with the state if this is indeed correct. I did check his door. State law states the office of the Drain Commissioner shall be furnished and shall be maintained at the county seat, which it is, in which said office said commissioner shall be and remain at least 1 day per week, such day to be painted on the door, and I would invite you all to walk over and see if it's painted on the door. It is not. And printed or stamped on his stationery. That I don't know, but I'll know soon. Back to the question of salary. Clearly, the Drain Commissioner is not happy with his salary, even though he knew what the salary was when he put his name on the ballot. That is not the fault of the voter. If he is unhappy, he should resign. He has already admitted he is in violation of state statute if indeed what the Record Eagle reported is correct. If you believe the position, not the person, and this isn't about Steve, this is about the position, If you believe the position warrants a higher salary, do so, but only after the present drain commissioner resigns, and you are able to choose the best applicant. And I'm guessing you will have quite a few highly qualified applicants with an offer of $35,000 a year versus $7,000 a year. I'm going to hand the state law to the Record Eagle reporter on my way out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Gilman?
Two things.
State name.
Oh, Jason Gilman, 933 Avenue D. Two things. I'm troubled by the way in which information was withheld from county commissioners with regard to an offer made recently regarding the pavilions. When correspondence is received with a specific instruction that the materials be distributed to the elected commissioners and anyone else concerned, it is not within the job description of the chairman or the board, chairman of the board or the administrator to censor that correspondence, unless the information is sensitive, bargaining, private personnel, or a matter that's directed by the board regarding negotiations, in which case it should be given to them directly at first opportunity. What is particularly disturbing is that the administrator is tasked with the county's FOIA responsibilities, which make sure that the public is fully informed and the county is transparent. When commissioners who are responsible for the administrator's actions are not fully informed, good governance becomes problematic. As a former commissioner, I understand there are political motivations that are often acted upon in these situations. I truly hope that the chair did not assume absolute authority and inappropriately direct the newly hired administrator in this matter. The offer that was sent for consideration was nowhere near worth considering, but any unsolicited offer should have been seen by commissioners, if only to provide a demonstration of interest in our properties, or in the county-owned properties. Second, the idea that because the pavilions were purchased with bond money, it cannot be sold is ludicrous. This board can and should explore the opportunity when such a sale could solve any and all financial problems this county currently faces. Other units of government buy and sell with bond money and otherwise as needed for proper management. An example might be any number of school buildings recently sold, possibly undervalued, but sold just the same. As for the Kennard, the pavilion's not costing us a dime, as Commissioner Wheelock says. I have to ask about the opportunity cost of the old health building being leased to the pavilions for 3 years at no cost, and for the next 12 at rates that are subpar for the square footage in a building that was supposed to have been sold by the county already. I appreciate your consideration of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for first public comment? Dan?
I'm Dr. Dan Lathrop, 9310 Peninsula Drive, County Commissioner, District 1. As an elected official, I take my job very seriously, and I rely on getting accurate, complete, and timely information in order to serve my public in the best possible way. County administrators, county employees, and other board members should not be involved in the censoring, editing, filtering, or delaying information that is meant for board consumption. The act of not providing information, or by providing only incomplete information, can greatly interfere with the board's ability to do its job. I have been elected to represent 12,000 people in District 1. They are citizens, taxpayers, and voters. I am entitled to all information that concerns them. What is more, they're entitled to it as well. I'll end with a short story. When I first became, my first year of being county commissioner, I was on an ad hoc committee. And the then administrator was on the same committee, and something came up where I was shocked that I didn't know it and the board didn't know it. And I asked him, I says, does the board know this? And his answer to me was, my board knows what I want it to know. From that point on, I found it very hard to trust him. We can't go there. If the Record Eagle hasn't beaten anything in my stone head, because I've been guilty of this, is we have to have transparency. And so I'm hoping that we'll all come to that conclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we go on, I just want to say, I let everybody talk when they want to, so if you do want to say something, you don't have to go to public comment to do it. So just as a reminder.
There was a reason I did that.
Fair enough. They're fair enough. But just as a reminder, we've had that a lot lately, and I really let anybody talk pretty much about anything they want to, so we don't really need to do that, but if you feel strongly, then okay. We have approval of the agenda. Does anybody have anything that they would like added, removed?
Move to accept the agenda.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Gorfulet, supported by Commissioner Johnson. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have an agenda. Consent calendar. Bonnie, please.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, Road Commission Report, October 2017. Number 2, Grand Traverse Conservation District Report. Number 3, resolutions opposing redirection of federal funding from Great Lakes, Eaton, and Chippewa counties. Number 4, county staff report. B, approvals. Number 1, Grand Traverse Sheriff's Office, evidence room property to be declared surplus. Number 2, family court, Ottawa County Juvenile Detention Center bed rental agreement. Number 3, health department, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Comprehensive Planning, Budgeting, and Contracting Agreement. Number 4, Health Department, Emergency Management Performance Grant.
Okay, does anybody want anything removed from the consent calendar and placed elsewhere for discussion? Anyone from the administration? I can't even talk. Anybody from the public want anything removed and discussed? Okay. Do we have a
Madam
motion?
Chairman, I would move to approve the consent calendar as provided.
I'll second that.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Mayer. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All those are approved. We have no special orders of business, no items removed from the consent calendar. We move on to departmental items, equalization. Mr. Baker?
Jim Baker, 10880 Teal Road, Director of Equalization. I have examined all certificates, statements, and papers and records submitted to me concerning the apportionment of value in Grand Traverse County and submit to you the apportionment report for approval. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions for what was submitted to us? It was all in our packet. No? Do we have a motion?
I would move to approve the apportionment report as provided by the Equalization Director, and thank he and his staff for another great job.
I'll second
Thank
that.
you.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Mayer. Any other discussion? Great
Very
job.
thorough report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
and
all those in
I'll,
favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go.
Thank you, and I'll submit the proper certification with the state.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you. That was easy. We need a little "that was easy" Bonnie. We have, next is the Drain Commissioner.
Madam Chair, would you entertain
Yes.
a motion at this time, or no? For
We
purposes
could,
of
but we could,
discussion?
for purposes of discussion, you can go ahead.
I would move that we table the presentation by the Drain Commissioner for this evening because we are looking at an employee compensation, Officers' Compensation Board, and I think that that conversation would more appropriately be had when we have a recommendation. I really don't want to take these offices piecemeal. I don't think it's fair. And so my motion is that we would table it pending a recommendation from the Compensation Committee. That's my motion.
Support.
So moved by Commissioner Gorfulet, supported by Dr. Johnson. Any discussion on that?
I just
Go
need
ahead.
a lot more information anyway, before I could even make a real good decision on this, so. Yeah, if we do go the route of a compensation committee, then that would make sense, but otherwise, well,
Would it make sense to have him present to that compensation committee in January when they begin their work? That would probably make more sense.
Probably.
Go ahead, Sonny.
I think the key piece about that discussion is the fact that the Compensation Commission will be charged with establishing compensation rates for all non-judicial elected officials effective January 1st, 2019.
Understood.
So, if you want to have any discussion about changing it between now and the January 1st of 2019, we could maybe have that discussion if the board chooses to have that. From what I read from Steve, I think that's what he was asking, is that we consider that. But I have no real problem one way or the other, but I think it's important to note that the Compensation Commission will be charged with establishing the compensation to elected officials effective January 1st of 2019.
So if I could
Yes,
clarify.
Yes.
That's my point. And I don't think that it's appropriate or timely for us to look at, I mean, if we were to grant an increase to the drain commissioner, then why should we not hear conversation from the clerk or from the prosecutor's office or from any other elected official during the middle of this cycle? And it just strikes me that if we're going to have a compensation committee take a look and make a recommendation, it should encompass everyone, or it should encompass no one. So, that's,
and especially given that we have a special meeting over the budget coming up, so we don't even know, we have some idea where we stand on the budget, so, I think we need some more time on that, so.
Tom?
Well, it's on the agenda, and Steve Largent's here, so I wouldn't mind listening to his presentation. We don't have to make a decision or a vote.
well, I have a motion.
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor. Dan, did you have any comment on it? No. Okay. So we will vote on the motion and see what happens. So why don't we do a roll call vote? Why not?
Do you want to read the motion?
Mayor?
Yeah, hold on, do you want to read the motion again? Or,
The motion is to table the Drain Commissioner's presentation until they get a recommendation from the Compensation Committee. Is that correct?
yep, thank you. Go ahead.
My response is no.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Gorfulet?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes. Okay, so we will table that.
So not even an update because it has nothing in there about wages, it's about the position and active projects.
Would be okay if we hear about active projects?
I don't know why not.
Okay, go ahead with active projects that we're working on, that would be
We
useful.
should note, Steve, that on the agenda that we received, it says Office of Drain Commissioner Compensation.
Yeah,
That's the way it was put to the agenda
Thus
to us.
the motion.
So we've tabled that part, but we would be more than happy to hear about what you're working on.
And
Thank you.
also I need a power source because it's dying.
Oh,
You better talk
We will-
quick, sir.
Did we pay our bill?
I'm not sure. It's in what we were going to approve, maybe we should quickly approve it. Technical difficulties will hang on.
Yeah, that is, but there's no power for it.
Wait, what's this?
There's nothing plugged into that.
I might have enough to go through if you just start. Do you want us to die in the middle?
Okay. 10, 9, 8.
Maybe he could just talk without the video.
Well, I think they've almost got it here. We'll give them a few minutes.
Okay, thank you
Seconds.
very much, and I'll
Thank you,
make
Bonnie.
this-
Okay, go.
Okay. The Office of County Drain Commission is a very critical position in Grand Traverse County. I believe it was reduced for punitive reasons and not based on the requirements of the job. Michigan Drain Code, most of the lawyers that know Michigan Drain Code, it's a complicated code, and they'll admit they don't know it, cover to cover. I won't read any of that, but basically it talks about what a drain commissioner does. It also talks about the petition process. So basically, if there's flooding onto a property or properties, those landowners can come together. It gives them a vehicle to be able to come together and petition the drain commissioner to get a board of determination together, but to solve that problem. And because those that are uphill don't necessarily want to be part of the solution, because their properties aren't being affected, even though they're part of the problem. So there's a whole list of things that you need to do, a board of determination, you determine the scope of the project and like that. So there's a whole bunch of steps in there, which these are the county drains. Basically, Gilbert Park in Long Lake Township, Cass Road, Garfield Township, Deepwater Point, Acme Township, Old Mission in Peninsula Township, and Timberlane Drive. And if you notice, all those were established back in 1987 or 88 when we had the real high water, and those projects have been served by the Drain Commission office and reduced their flooding. There's also two lake-level drainage districts, Silver Lake and Duck Lake. And then there's other, what we call Chapter 20 drains. You can see those there. So there's 13 all. This is the Granger building. This is in the Cass Road drain district. Granger moved out because of the flooding that occurred back in like 2008 or so, and they could not get relief, and so the road commission petitioned the drain commissioner in 2015 because of the flooding of the industrial park area, and the stream was breaching the banks and adding water into the Cass Road drain. There's several problem areas, not just, there's 3 problem areas actually. The Cass Road drain actually extends from just south of South Airport Road to about the Miller Creek crossing of Cass Road and Miller Creek crossing. You can see the flooding that goes on in that area when we have periods of high water. One of the big problems is the railroad crossing. This is a plug in basically the creek and doesn't allow stormwater to flow efficiently through there. So that's part of what we have to address. We also have to address water that's coming down from up by the crossings that are coming in behind those buildings and causing flooding there. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. The project schedule is to complete the design this fall. This fall and winter, we're going to be submitting the DEQ permit. We're going to be working on easement acquisitions. We're going to be then bidding the project in February, and then we'll have a day of review for those in the drainage district in March. The Deepwater Point drain, this one's out at the in Acme Township off Dock Road. There was some work that was done here just a few years ago, but there's more work that needs to be done. And so it was requested that 2 of the arms of those drains be cleaned out from the fallen trees and like that, and I have not had the time or opportunity. One thing to correct Ms. Maxbauer's comment about, I said 4 hours, I said that's the compensation level at what I'm getting paid with the Conservation District. I work full-time for the Conservation District, and at about 4 hours a week, that's what I'm getting compensated for. And I know you folks, I'm singing to the choir because you guys don't get compensated, but it's 15 hours a week easy, and I had to take vacation time in order to be able to fulfill my 40-hour week at the Conservation District, or take it away from, my family, which I do, is done anyway. So to correct that, it's 15-hour a week, and anybody can come in. I keep records of my time. But then here also with the Deepwater Point drain, there was the Greek Orthodox Church that came in and asked for a plat review, and they have a stormwater plan. They're going to build this church, and so what we need to do is actually go back and revisit the apportionments for that drainage district, because they're going to be putting more stormwater into that Deepwater Point drain. That's something that has to be done, but most likely won't get done. Section 197 allows you to go back of the drain code and revisit, the drainage district boundaries and look at plats to see how many of those properties have been split. From what I understand, there's also a development up above that's split one lot into several smaller lots, and so that they would all then be charged as part of the drainage district. So it would be fair to all those in the drain. Old Mission Peninsula, out on the tip of the peninsula, received some complaints out there. Went with Jim Johnson from the Road Commission because there was flooding of the post office and the community center there. And there was also some reports of new drain tiles that were put in that was contributing to this flooding. And so this needs to be revisited. There's a lot of work that hasn't been done that needs to be done, and it just can't be done at the current level of compensation. Like I said, Jim and I went out there and talked to some of the neighbors and listened to their concerns. Timberlane Drive, I haven't had a chance to get out on Timberlane Drive and check that one out either. Silver Lake lake level structure. This one was established back in 1987, I believe it was. That's the outlet structure, and it gets clogged up with vegetation. And so one of the things that the County Administrator Tom Menzel recommended is that I try to get others to help out, get volunteers to help out. And so I put together a volunteer petition that I sent to Chris for review, and then sent it to, it's a liability release that protects the county if those folks were to help out. And basically they came back and said, thank you, but no thank you. They were trying to extend an offer to volunteer our labor to keep the drain clean and functioning properly. This would be accomplished with the efforts of a handful of property owners who would volunteer their time and energy at no cost to the county. We envisioned our offer as a means to help you perform your job as drain commissioner, and also giving the property owners the service that they need and deserve. However, after much discussion among the board members of the association, we must respectfully rescind our offer of keeping the drain clean and functioning under the terms of the liability waiver as proposed. The waiver as written would place too large of a burden upon individuals who are merely volunteering to help with the task that is performed by the county. We would therefore expect the timely maintenance of the drain to fall under the responsibility of your position. I got this email this morning from the president of the Silver Lake Association. He says, I didn't know the hours had been drastically cut. He says, I was very concerned when our previous drain commissioner's hours were cut by the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners a few years back. We have seen the direct result of it with our drain not being kept up as it had been in previous years. Now, I realize why. I didn't know the hours had been cut that drastically, so in spite of his interest, Kevin was simply unable to do what he had in previous years. So, Duck Lake. I've been working with Chris on this, and we just finally got the final order of determination from Judge Power for the lake level. Final order of that sets a normal lake level at 837.3 for the summer, and the winter level 6 inches below that. Unfortunately, we had it within an inch of where it was supposed to be, the court-ordered level, and somebody pulled the boards in July. That dropped the level 7 inches. And so I put new boards in there. There's the court-ordered level. I had it within an inch of the court-ordered level. And when somebody pulled the boards, And so I had to go get dimensional lumber to, and you can see how that is leaking. We need to do maintenance on that dam. It most likely won't get done. And then there's all these other Chapter 20 drains that I haven't even had a chance to look into yet. So, yes, I put in more than 4 hours a week, but I can't do any more than what I'm doing right now. The former drain commissioner got a SAW grant to do a plan, a stormwater asset management plan, and that was 3 years ago. And not much had been done on that plan, and your resolution, the County Board of Commissioners had a resolution of 168-2013 in support of that SAW grant, but the county would have been on the hook for any funds that would have been expended if that project were not able to be complete. I met extensively with Jim about possibly, because his office was written into this grant, he just simply, with his current staffing level, didn't have the time to do it. I met with others, consultants. There was no way we would be able to guarantee that this plan could be done. And once I pulled the trigger and started spending money on this, the county, because of this resolution, would have been on the hook. And I just didn't feel comfortable with doing that, because I didn't, at the current level of compensation, there's no way I would have been able to get this done. So we had to give up a $77,000 grant. The county was also responsible for an $8,000 cash match. So there's no way with our current budget situation we could do that. So I had to give up that grant. Plat reviews, state mandated record keeping, FOIA requests, Mission Hills drain. There's a 15-acre plume that goes out into East Bay every time it rains. Joe Gorka, who I've been working with on that, I walked the drain with him and the baykeeper, and we can see what the problem is. This is a perfect drain opportunity, county drain opportunity, but there's no way. I'd have to let that petition sit. The list goes on. So that's it.
Okay. Does anybody have any, oh, go ahead, Tom.
Well, I would like to say that I am concerned about the risk to the environment and to people's personal property. I can see the flooding pictures pretty clearly that you brought, and water levels are going up. I was just down by the water today, and I could see within just a few inches, the water will be coming up under the Murchie Bridge onto the sidewalk there, which is much higher than it's been in the past. So it's obvious that the lake levels are higher. I'm concerned about the new dam, and whether, I'm sure you know about it, the new dam that they want to construct at where the Union Street Dam is. I'm concerned, and I haven't heard, it'd be a question I have, whether the level of the Boardman Lake will come down and be lowered because of that dam being removed and replaced with a fish passage system, an experimental fish passage system there at Union Street. I haven't heard anything about that, but if they remove the dam, I am concerned. And I'm concerned about development downtown if the dam gets removed, because the Pine Street Development 1 property across from J&S that wants to develop, the lower part of that is technically in a floodplain. And yet, there's people considering constructing a building there. That concerns me. And I believe that, some of these things are, your purview to be able to comment on things like that. And I think that you're underpaid for your work. So, and as a board, we're suffering because, at least I am personally, because some people decided that all that we deserved was $1 a year. So I do sympathize. Thank you.
Bob?
I just can't let that pass again, because when you filed, you knew what the pay was. When you ran, you knew what the pay was, so I'm sorry that people lied to you about doing it, but you keep saying this, but you still chose to accept this office at that pay. So, yeah, it sucks, but
Hold on,
that's it.
guys, we're talking about the drain commissioner.
No,
No,
The reason it comes
okay.
up is because people feel that he did the same thing, okay? But he doesn't have enough pay to do the job that's important, and he's protecting us, so.
Okay, I knew you couldn't let that go. Anybody else have any questions for the drain commissioner? Okay, thank you very much for the update. We will move on to finance. We have in the packet the September claims approvals, and I think on your desk, I did ask just a few questions earlier today. So everybody got the answers, I believe, to that. I did have a couple extra questions. They're easy. The Epic Technology Solutions, has that hit the 30,000 purchasing limit?
Paul has been, no, it has not. Paul has been made available through that agreement for Ming. She has not utilized his services since she came on board,
So
other than
with
a
these
meeting or two.
payments, it will not hit the 30,000?
No, it will not.
Okay. Paula Segala, same question.
That's related to the Commission on Aging and still is below that limit
Okay,
substantially.
okay.
What do we pay Cherry Capital Cab for?
The Commission
Oh,
on Aging.
yeah, where's that one?
There wasn't an explanation on the sheet, so.
Is it on the
1140.
second page? COA client transportation?
Yeah, the Commission on Aging partners with various transportation agencies in the county to provide
Oh, there
a
it is.
discounted
Oh, no.
transportation service to our seniors. So that's a payment. We would also make a number of other payments to a couple of other providers for those same similar services.
I just wondered, like, that was a heck of a cab ride. I'm just curious, just kind of stuck
And
out.
why are we paying Project Cherry Tree $15,000?
Was that a pass-through? I assumed that it
That was
was.
a grant.
That it was a grant, so it was a
Tribal
pass-through.
grant.
Oh, that's the tribal money?
Yeah, that's what I assumed it was.
The board hasn't approved any sort of authorization for anything
No.
other than the 2%.
So all the ones that I looked at that looked like nonprofits, I assumed that that's what those were.
Maybe we could have some sort of a code system that we could get with these, that would help with a lot of the questions. I mean, like the people, and you have a...
Yeah, I had to look up all the people to see if they were
You have your colloquy,
lawyers.
like on Jeremiah and Jessica Brown, that was one of mine. That's a TNT forfeiture settlement agreement. I mean, they're forfeiting assets through a TNT drug raid, or...
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So they were... Explain that.
So what happened was, they were growing marijuana at the property. TNT did an investigation with Kent County Sheriff's Department. Arrest was made, search warrant was executed at the property. Approximately $75,000 in cash was seized, other equipment was seized, and a settlement was reached where they got $22,000 back.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So when we see names of people, it's helpful to know, because, somebody is getting a check from the county for $17,000 or $12,000 or $11,000 or $15,000, it's helpful to know why those, people who aren't employees are getting fairly substantial chunks of money. So,
Yeah.
I mean, last month's statement also had a number of people whose names were there who were getting checks.
And I know I went through and looked at them, and that most of them are attorneys.
Yeah,
No, I know the
Some of them are,
attorneys.
yeah.
These were
Okay.
much greater amounts, and they were higher up on the chain, and they were more money.
So perhaps I could propose modifying the report so that then it's split by fund, and then you would be able to more easily designate if they were, for instance, individuals' names, but under a court fund, that it would be more easily distinguishable.
Or, yeah, or if
Or in
we're
this
just a
instance,
fiduciary
if it
for
was-
them, or, okay.
Would that be
Well,
acceptable?
And some of them are pass-through monies to Antrim County and to different organizations, and I think we understand those. And it's always funny, because we get down to, okay, we paid this Sox group $1,000, but then all other payees under $1,000 totals $120,000.
That's a lot of beans.
So it's not like I necessarily want, the $25 check that Grand Traverse County paid me for a project that our company did. I don't necessarily need an itemized list, but yet at the end of the day, I've got an itemized list down to $1,000, and then I've got all other payees under $1,000 totaling $120,682.91. So I don't know where you start and stop the list. But yet, when we pay a lot of bills every month that are small bills, and obviously, $120,000 worth of small bills got paid this month, less than $1,000. So I don't know where you start with the list, where you start, where you stop it. But, I do appreciate the information, and it is difficult to read down through the list and say, okay, I know what that money was spent for, because there's just no way we're going to know all of these vendors that were issued checks. It's just not possible that each of us would know those.
Well,
Or at least not person enough that I would know those, so.
Cheryl?
I think we talked about reinstituting the...
I was going to bring that up.
Okay, then I'll let you.
Okay. I think I believe last meeting you had brought up reinstituting the ad hoc, not the ad hoc, the
Audit committee.
Finance committee or audit
Finance
committee,
the
whatever.
audit committee that used to meet every other Tuesday morning and went through everything. And as you go through everything, after the first couple of months, I was on it, and after the first couple of months, you start to learn what is normal and what sticks out as not. So I guess we would ask if we want to do that again.
I think we need to for a while. I would support it. I mean, I don't know if you need a motion. I would so move.
I would think you would want a motion.
I so move.
Okay. Do we have a second? I'll second for discussion.
Would that be something that we would re-implement as of January of 2018, or something we want to start sooner than that?
I'd say sooner. We're in a budget
Probably for
cycle
now.
right now.
It
Why
would
not
be,
now?
yeah. I would say if we could get 3 people that would do it.
It takes 3.
We had 3, yeah. If you have one, it's 3. Yep.
And if all 3 can't come, do you do it anyway?
Yeah, you have to have at least 2
You
sign
have to have
off.
at least
Okay.
2 sign off on everything every other Tuesday.
Okay.
So I did it last time.
As long as we could pick a time that, can be flexible.
I think it has to be Tuesday mornings, though, because that's when the check runs.
We can adjust our claim schedule accordingly.
You
Yeah,
can. Okay.
make it Monday after 5.
Dan?
I've forgotten, why did we stop it in the first place?
Time.
Time?
Well,
Yeah.
Tom had some good ideas.
Time.
Why?
No, not Tom.
Time.
Not Tom. Time.
I didn't hear, yeah.
No.
It
Time.
takes an hour and a half, 2 hours for 3, for a
Yeah.
couple of commissioners to do it.
And it takes time for the finance department to get it kind of all
Couldn't
together.
we just modify the report to satisfy the needs of the board, rather than going through all that?
Well, the point is, when you look, and I've done the finance committee at least 2 or 3 times since I've been here, but when you're actually looking at the physical invoice, okay, they went to Ace Hardware and they bought batteries for a flashlight,
Yeah.
When I just see a report that says we wrote $1,000 to Ace Hardware this month, I don't know. I remember doing different times, and you'd have, that obviously Facilities was doing a project, because on the same date, they had 5 invoices from Ace Hardware. So it's like, how does that work? But it's still, when you physically go through the invoices and match them to the printout, you have an opportunity to see what we're spending the money on. When I get a list like this that says we wrote a check to Ace Hardware, I don't have any way of knowing what we got for our money.
I remember when we did have that 3-person board, they were very sharp, they caught stuff.
And it absolutely, it's just a commitment of time
Yeah.
by commissioners
So, I mean, I
and staff.
enjoyed being on that committee. I mean, it was good to know where the money is going.
I'd recommend everybody to my right then that gets on there. Because that seems to be the area of concern. I just don't have time for that. I mean, I hate to say
No,
with
I get
everything
it.
else.
I normally appoint people who aren't here, but
I don't know, I'd feel bad to throw Ron on there. This is a pretty serious commitment.
I think that's the rule of thumb, isn't it? Yeah.
kinda.
Yeah.
It is a commitment of time on
It
behalf
is.
of the commissioners. I think there is value to it, and I think it just came down to a time commitment issue. And, with the discussion about what we did with commissioners' compensations and all of those things, it was just decided that was 1 meeting per month that we didn't, or 2 meetings a month that we didn't have to have.
Does it have to be the same 3 people?
It should, because
Then you get the
the benefit of,
flipping through the
yes,
stuff.
every month, then you start to see what is normal and what is not. Otherwise, it kind of takes even longer.
Is it really a problem?
I don't think it's a problem. I think
No,
that
but
it's
it's a
desired
responsibility.
information, and it's our responsibility. It is.
Yeah, I get it.
It is our responsibility.
No, I had it for years.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, for a long time, so.
yeah.
So the motion is to reinstitute the audit committee, moved by Commissioner Gorfulet and supported by Commissioner Mayer.
So you supported?
I did. Oh, I'm sorry, I supported that.
Yeah, that'd be you.
I'm sorry, okay, all right. Well, let's go with a roll call. Bonnie?
Lathrop?
I'll say yes.
Johnson?
Yeah, yes.
Gorfulet?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes. It's actually 5.5.
We ought to
Bob wasn't really all on with
Well,
it.
I think what we need to do as we talk about this and probably appoint commissioners at a later meeting of who's going to sit on it, we need to investigate the possibility of making that flexible.
Okay.
Because I know when I served on it, one time it was absolutely structured, you had to be here from 9 to 11 on Tuesday
that
mornings
doesn't
or
work.
something, and that was nearly impossible for me. But there was other times that there was some flexibility involved, and I would go into one of the side meeting rooms, and the printout and the invoices would be there, and I'd just read through them at my schedule, and then sign off on them, and then, I'd do it on the Tuesday, but it may be 9 o'clock at night on
Sure.
Tuesday, not 9 o'clock in the morning.
Why does it have to be the Tuesday? Because they're not ready till then?
It doesn't. Jody said that they can
That was
accommodate.
that particular
But I'm
schedule.
just saying, is there a window of time? Is there more than one day even where it would be possible?
So we would just adjust our procedures accordingly. So, for instance, there are any number of ways we could set this up to meet the needs. So if you gave direction to administration to propose altering the structure of the audit committee to be more flexible, we'd be happy to do that. If it came to, well, we make sure that the claims and the boxes are ready before we go home on Friday so that you have all day Monday, and then there's a commitment by the audit committee members to sign off by 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning.
That would help.
Because you don't have to all be
That
there
would help.
together.
Right, you
That would
don't
help.
have to be there
Not at all.
together, but I guess what I'd like to do is, I'm more than willing to do it, but I need to have some flexibility because there's no way that I can commit that I would be here at 9 o'clock every Tuesday morning. It's not possible.
So
I just add from Mississippi, my county there, the entire board got the entire claims docket days in advance, and they all became very familiar with the status quo, and they would flip through it, and then at the meeting, they would pose the questions, and we would have all the detail. But the entire board became very familiar with all of it, and it didn't take much time after a little time, after a little while.
as you go through it, it gets easier. It does. So Bob's looking at the three of us, so I don't think we have to wait to appoint. We could take the three of us and work with finance to work that out.
Yeah, as long as there's flexibility, I can do it, but I can't be tied into,
Well, it seems like finance is more than willing to be very flexible with us, so it will be Cheryl and Sunny, and I'll do it. I know you're looking at me. I see.
Cheryl, you are good at that. You on your own, notice those details all the time, those financial things.
We lawyers are like that.
Yeah, is that right?
I think it's three outstanding people that are gonna do it. so.
There you
Three
go.
outstanding
We
people.
need to be
that's right.
sarcastic.
It's just, it is a time commitment, and I'm happy to do that because I think there's value to doing it. But, obviously, at least in my world, I need some flexibility to make it work.
Me too. Okay. Okay.
And may we still approve September claims?
Yes, let's approve. Who would like to make a motion to approve the September claims?
As moved. As
Support.
mentioned.
Moved by Commissioner Johnson, supported by Commissioner Wheelock. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to budget to actual revenue and expenditure report. Have a
So
report.
moved.
Oh, we're going to go ahead and accept that.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Gorfulet, supported by Commissioner Johnson to accept the actual revenue and expenditure report.
Jody, how close are we to have tracked the revenue? This report says as of August 31st of 2017, and when I spoke with the county treasurer, she thought that the 52% estimate was significantly undervalued.
The reports were run as of August 30th. We did receive a substantial push in our property tax revenue in the month of September.
And we all know that our big revenue comes in the second half of the year, not in the first half of the year because of the summer tax bills.
Yep.
So, you know, the fact that this shows that 66% of our year is occurred, and we've only received 52% of the projected revenue, is not a big scary thing, because
it's August, not
most of
September.
it's going to come in the second half of the year, and a huge amount of it comes in December.
Well, yeah, so with the bills going out in July, then we start to see that bell curve of receipts.
So, we look at the revenues at 52%, the projected expenditures are only at 42%, which makes me feel good, but I was pretty concerned about the projected deficit of $3.5 million.
And that's why maintaining fund balance to support those off months, especially with the fiscal year being exactly as you stated.
Any other comments or questions on the report? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We will move on to Administration Public Act 152. Vicki?
Yes, so there was a memo distributed to the Board of Commissioners regarding Public Act 152 that allows the board to pass on the cost, split the cost 80/20 with the employees for health care coverage. We've incurred a 9.3% increase in our health care cost, so there's a grid there that would show what our increase to the employee and increase to the employer for family and individual coverage. So we're requesting a resolution that the board approve, that we continue that process of the 80/20 distribution of cost for the 2018 fiscal year.
So move.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Barfolet, supported by Commissioner Johnson. Sonny?
The one thing that I would also stipulate is the fact that we direct staff to negotiate that Public Act 152 compliance into all labor contracts.
So we're
Because we
definitely-
have a number of contracts that have already expired, and we have more that are going to expire that do not have the 20% in it. So we need to make sure that all contracts are PA 152 compliant.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Commission on Aging, this is being brought back from 2 weeks ago, the personal safety units?
Personal emergency response system.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, there was a question at the last meeting regarding the annualized cost, and I just wanted to point out in your packet that on page 128, there is a listing of the bids that were received from the 3 companies, and then on the following page, there is an annualized cost there. We do have Jill Case, who's our program supervisor and runs this program, as well as Mitch Barnes, who's the RN supervisor, that are here today if you have specific questions related to the program.
We currently contract with Guardian.
Yes, we do.
Madam Chairman, I would move to enter into a contract with Guardian Medical Monitoring for our PRS units at a rate of $13.95 per month. Do we need each of the 3 different types of units listed?
Or can we just enter into the agreement as proposed in the RFP process? I think there's...
Pass the resolution.
Yeah, if we just pass the resolution.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
If we pass the resolution,
All right.
which has the
Yeah, this-
language in there.
Whereas the Commission on Aging maintains a leasing agreement with provider to provide clients with access to personal emergency response units, and whereas the current agreement is set to expire December 31st, 2017, and whereas 2017 an RFP was issued to identify qualified vendors and to seek bids and services, whereas 3 vendors responded to the RFP and Guardian Medical Monitoring continues to be the recommended vendor for services, whereas the lease would be for a basic unit and expanded to include options for seniors to utilize GPS and GSM units. Now therefore be it resolved that by the Board of Commissioners that Grand Traverse County approves and authorizes the board chair and/or county administrator to effectuate the documents necessary to enter into the 3-year lease agreement with Guardian Medical Monitoring.
Is there a second?
Got it?
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Mayer. Cheryl?
Well, I actually spoke with Jill Case today at some length about this, and I would like to propose a friendly amendment that would include your resolution, but for the last sentence, which would enter into a one-year lease agreement with Guardian Medical Monitoring, because a significant portion of this contract is unknown, which is the GSM unit, GPS units, which we have no history of right now. We don't know how many people are going to use them. We're not sure how they're going to work. And so Jill said that if we were to enter into a one-year agreement, after a year, we would have a better idea of what the GPS use would be, and then we would be in a position to go back and do an RFP again, including the GPS history. And so my motion would be exactly as read by Commissioner Wheelock, with the exception that it would be a one-year agreement with Guardian to be revisited in a year.
So my question would be, are these rates based on a three-year agreement, and would they be different on a one-year?
The RFQ was at
3
years.
So the numbers would not be the same, potentially?
We do have an ability. I mean, we could terminate the contract. We could get out of it. We could issue an RFP, for those specific services. We have some flexibility within that.
What does it cost us to get out of the agreement?
I don't believe that there is a termination fee in there.
I guess two questions. One, our clients reimburse us for at least a portion of this, correct? Or pretty much the entirety?
Very small portion.
Just a small portion? Okay, so a portion of it. I think more importantly, we're asking a vendor to purchase and provide this equipment that costs a lot more than $12, So if we're going to ask a vendor to meet our needs, we're going to have to enter into some sort of agreement to encourage them to purchase the equipment to meet our needs.
Bob?
Yeah, I mean, I had the same concerns as Cheryl did. I mean, my one concern is, are we going to have a cap on this then, that when we reach the GPS, whatever, because if people decide, well, I want the higher end one, because that's going to be in human nature to say, I just want the higher end one. So you're going to go into that more. Are we having a cap in here to say, all right, we've hit this, we need to reevaluate? Because like you said, you really don't know, and I understand that, you don't know what you don't know on that yet, but that's one of my major concerns with it is the unknown of that. So it is pricey.
So Jen, what is the notice that we would give if we wanted to change the contract?
Is it a 30-day out? I'm going to look at Jill. She manages that contract on a day-to-day basis. 30 days.
Let us remember that 86% of the taxpayers in this township wanted us to support the Commission on Aging and provide services to our seniors. And this is a huge safety concern for our seniors. And I think it's, it may be a whole lot more important than making sure we go out and mow the grass.
And I don't disagree, Sonny. I mean, I spent a lot of time talking with Jill, and she educated me on what each of these does, and obviously, adding the GPS is, as Bob says, it's the Cadillac. I mean, it is the Cadillac. It's you carry it with you, and if you fall and you don't respond, and it will call in on your behalf, and I mean, it's a great thing, but it's like, we're at $38 a month plus 27, or we're at 27 plus 15 plus 250. Right now, without adding the GPS, we're at $116,000 for this one piece for the COA, okay? So then if we add, I don't know, do the math, what's 850 times 15?
Well, and I assumed that like the Connect America was one service.
Right.
One level of service on it. The Guardian was probably the next level, or low, is what I was assuming when I saw this, so.
All three have the same type.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. The
We just
people
want to
at
make you
home
get
want
up.
to hear.
Well, you're here, you might as well.
All right.
Thank you.
All three of the units are the same.
Okay.
Connect America, we would be purchasing the unit.
Okay.
They don't have a call center, So the people would decide who they want to be called, which the first one will be 911. I don't think 911 will want those phone calls.
Right.
So that kind of puts them out.
Okay.
In their RFQ, they didn't tell us,
The UL listing?
no, Connect America didn't tell us, once we bought them, we would be responsible to go pick them up if the client passed away, went into a nursing home, then we would have to reconstruct it for the next person. Or the other two, we lease them, we're not responsible for anything. They connect them, they get the service. The Connect America didn't turn in the UL certification, so they have emailed me since and said they are UL certified. But they are $11 a month higher on the GPS model. So that's one of the...
Sonny?
I think one of the things, I have to sit on another board where we deal with monitors, only we call them tethers. And what we have found is the company that we lease that equipment from, one of the things that we entered into recently, it is an agreement to insure those units. So as if they're damaged or if they're lost, we have a way to recover that because they are very pricey equipment to buy if you lose them. And
Guardian doesn't charge us anything.
Guardian doesn't charge us, so that's a
That's
great
a
thing. But
savings.
we were running into issues when we were losing tethers, and it was a big price tag item, and the county was being made to pay for it.
What,
Because,
people cut
you
them
know,
off or something?
Once in a while. They found them in the woods, they found them all different kinds of places. But I guess the most important thing about this is I think we enter into the agreement, if there's something that maybe we should do, maybe we should reevaluate the copay. You know, maybe that's the better way to do it, is to reevaluate the copay.
Or even amend the motion to say in a year we'll reevaluate this to see what the cost
Just
is.
look
You know,
at it in a
let's-
year.
You
Just
know,
look
there's
at
no
it in a
problem
year.
with looking at it periodically and tracking and see how it works, but I think it's important that this equipment is available, you know, having...
So do I. Absolutely.
Having rode an ambulance and rescue truck for many, many years, you know, I've been very frustrated at 3 o'clock in the morning when somebody had a new one and they tried to test it and make sure it worked. But it does happen. It's not a regular thing, but it does happen. But the biggest thing is, it's an absolute safety issue for the seniors in our community.
So would you like to amend your motion to say to be revisited in a year?
No, I'm fine with, I'm fine with
definitely.
entering into the
You're okay with
3-year
that? Okay.
contract
So am I.
with the opportunity that staff in the COA are going to track these and find out how many are being used, where we are, and give us a periodic report of what we're using.
Because they'll have to do their budget again in a year anyway to look at it.
Right, so on you know, at least on an annual basis, we're going to get some sort of a report of how many of them we have out, how much they're costing us, and, you know, the other piece of it is to reevaluate the copay.
Okay.
So the motion stays the same?
Correct.
Anybody else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We're all set with that. Moving on to old and unfinished business. Last meeting, we agreed to go ahead with a compensation commission. And I believe now we may be ready to...
I watched it. I guess I don't remember everyone agreeing to go
Well, you
forward
don't all
with it
have
yet.
to agree, but there
Well-
was a majority that agreed.
We agreed that we want to do it. Once we pass a resolution, it starts a 30-day time clock to hire those people, the 7 that sit on it.
You mean to select them?
To select them, that's what I
I
mean.
didn't think we
Yes.
pay them, do we?
No, I didn't mean to use the word hire.
I don't know if we
Select
need a
the
motion,
7.
but I have a lot of questions about this first, and I guess I'll go ahead and just make this motion. It may not go anywhere.
Okay.
I move that for 2019, effective January 1st, 2019, the county commissioners get paid, and the average of what the 7 got paid before, including per diem, and then have no more per diem. We've already had an ad hoc committee before on compensation.
I did that math for you very
So-
thoroughly once before.
So I moved, that's a motion,
For conversation, I'll second it.
so.
Okay.
So I think,
Moved by Dr. Johnson,
go ahead.
seconded by Dr. Lathrop.
I just
Go.
think we're making this real complicated, because again, I can't remember how long ago, we had an ad hoc committee not long ago, reviewing the
But you didn't
elected
review-
officials'
You
compensation.
didn't review the commissioners.
Commissioners.
No, but
It was
this is
specifically
easy for the
not.
commissioners. I mean, really, it's,
Okay, Sunny?
You know, I think the idea of having an outside look at the compensation makes some sense. You know, I do believe it does. You know, we all know that I didn't support the decision for commissioners to be paid $1, and I did the math. You know, I believe in 2015, the average compensation in payment in lieu of health insurance, per diems, and salaries was about $14,400 per commissioner for the 7 of us. You know, I can go back farther when the appropriation group decided that we were going from 9 commissioners to 7. My suggestion at that time was that we took the $63,000 that we were paying the 9 commissioners and pay it to the 7, because the workload is the same, whether 7 of us are doing it or whether 9 of us were doing it. That didn't pass either. But I can also go back a few years farther than that, when we raised the salary from $6,500 to $7,000, and the front page of the Record Eagle said we got a 21% pay increase, you know, so I'm not sure there's any way to win this thing, but I do believe the idea of having an outside compensation commission evaluate the compensation takes it out of the headline saying that we voted ourselves a raise.
Cheryl?
Well, and this isn't directly to your motion, but it's to the issue, and I think that it's fair to look at the other elected officials, because the argument that, you know, you run for something and you know what it's going to pay, when does that end? Because if you get reelected, is the theory that you're going to be forever paid what you were paid when you were first elected? Because, gee, you knew what it was paying when you were first elected. So, you know, if the citizens want you to come back, you know, for another term and another term and another term, you're not even getting cost of living. I mean, you know, there are people that are working for the county right now that I'm pretty sure haven't had a raise in several years that are elected.
2014.
That are elected officials, and there have been cost of living increases in that period of time. It shouldn't be punitive to serve.
and I mean, I agree. And we voted this to 0 or whatever. We said that we'll reevaluate it. But like I said, recently, I can't remember, how long ago was that we reviewed the elected officials' compensation, because I was on that ad hoc committee. And we are not far off the mark from some of the larger counties. So
Well, it was a year ago.
I mean, they're not hurting as far as,
then you know
my
what?
motion was just for us.
I know, which is why I said it's not really
Yeah.
timely to your motion,
Yeah.
but the underlying issue that we're supposed to be discussing,
Yeah.
which you're trying to circumnavigate with your motion, is the compensation committee, which included all elected.
And part of my motion is just because of what Commissioner Whitlock said, is everybody wants to take the responsibility off us then and say, well, look, that's what the committee recommended. You know?
We don't have to go with what the committee
No, but
recommends either.
I got a feeling that if they say, yeah, you're worth $20,000 a year, I think the majority here would probably say, okay, you know. So I guess one of my concerns is, I know we have people on here that really want this as a job that they make a living off of, and not necessarily public service. And obviously, there's a fine line, you know.
Well, if you're
But
making a living off of $20,000.
Exactly.
You're qualifying for food stamps,
Yeah, I
buddy,
know.
so it's not much of a living.
So I made it. We'll see what happens. I got a feeling I know what's going to happen.
Any other discussion before we vote on this motion? Yes, Tom?
Sonny, what was the figure you came up with last time? Is what you thought
Is
like a flat
my
sum
memory,
instead
and
of
I'm sure I probably still have it in notes.
Yeah.
It was like $14,400 per commissioner. That was salary, per diems, or payment in lieu of health insurance, or those commissioners that were receiving health benefits. That was the total cost
Yeah.
for the 7 commissioners divided by 7.
So no
When
per
it-
diem.
When it was...
And per diems. They were all added.
That included all, that
But-
means you
In other words,
wouldn't
you
get...
got everything.
Hold on.
Yeah, you have
That was the motion that I made that didn't receive support, was that we do a flat rate. I believe if my memory is right, my motion was to compensate commissioners at a rate of $12,500 a year, and it figured that in itself was going to save the county somewhere in the $23,000 a year range.
Plus the
But
payment in lieu.
instead of that, we went to $1 and we saved the county a lot of money for 2 years.
Dan? Go ahead.
Did your motion, do you see health insurance outside of your motion or included in your motion?
I was really more thinking of the pay and then the per diem. I mean, I don't care if you want to wrap in the healthcare, I don't take the healthcare, so, you know.
Okay, so the figure you proposed is $7,000?
Plus the per diems, the average of the per diems. If you look at the average, you can find the pay that was given for the meetings and everything else. I mean, I agree with Commissioner Wheelock that whatever we do in the future, and let me make perfectly clear, as I've said before, that it's not going to affect me because I will not be running again, that you know, I think you should do away with the per diems. I think the flat rate should be the easiest way. So, to me, this is just an easier way to say, all right, let's take the responsibility, and, you know, take the average of that, look at what the average was a few years ago, and, because you can still come up with that number.
Yeah, and a number can be created, and, you know, over the years, we've looked at it a lot of different ways, and I remember having discussion with someone about, you know, such and such a commissioner was, you know, because as we possibly remember, it used to pay health insurance for the commissioner and their family, you know. I never took county health insurance. I still don't. You know, I had health insurance available through my business. You know, that decision, while I still support that decision, cost me $100,000 out of my pocket over the length of time I've sat in this chair. You know, but the fact is, you know, and then you had commissioners that were taking the health insurance, you had other commissioners that weren't taking any. And then along came the payment in lieu. It was $1,000, and then it went to $2,000. But even at $2,000, it's not even close to the cost of the health insurance for that commissioner. So, you know, and we actually looked at expanding the payment in lieu of health insurance in the past to make it more attractive to county employees, because there's a lot of county employees that may have health insurance available through a spouse or something, but for $2,000 they've got both coverages, and they make sure they don't have anything drop through the cracks. Right. But, you know, we looked at, you know, increasing the payment in lieu, and the fact that it was probably going to save us money overall and make it available, but it wasn't necessarily a real popular discussion.
Dan?
I would hope that if we came up with this round figure that would reduce the falterall of per diems and stuff, we would not include health insurance, because as we just saw, that went up like 9% this year.
9.3.
And so every year we'd be giving ourselves more or not for health insurance if you're interested in that. So I'd like to see if we do this, that health insurance be as it is now.
Well, you still have to
health
pay
insurance, or health insurance not be a part of the compensation package, and commissioners could purchase health insurance at the county rate, but they would be totally responsible.
But the net should be the same, though. I mean, if for instance our old salary was $7,000, health insurance costs more than that for just one person. So you'd end up getting health insurance and nothing else. So.
We all know people that are working because they get health insurance benefits. They would have retired, or they wouldn't be working, other than the fact that they get health insurance and benefits from their employees.
That's correct.
You know,
That's a big deal now.
and you know, you can look at the 9.3%. I can tell you from my company in April, ours went up 11.3%.
Yeah.
You know, the 9.3 isn't horrible. But I remember
So I will amend my motion just so it's clear.
Okay.
That'd be helpful.
I will amend my motion, just so it's clear, that what I'm proposing is that we take the average of the commissioner's base salary and the per diem.
For which year?
2016. I mean, you all got paid right up until we came on board, so nobody ever.
Or you could even take the 2 years previous to that, and average of that if you would like, so.
And is that okay with the second as well?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'd like to see us do this, because I think we should take responsibility for our own salary.
And again, this doesn't, I mean, we can still do the compensation commission for the other elected officials, but
Well, if you do the compensation commission, they are required to set
everything.
compensation for all non-judicial elected officials. That's the way the ordinance is.
But again, like I said, we looked at it, we did a pretty good look a year ago or
I was on
whatever.
that committee, I was on that ad hoc
You know,
committee.
and
And we
we're,
can, at that point, if they come, if we do still do the compensation commission, they can look at it, and if we really feel they came up with a number that is substantially higher and you would like to go with the lower number, or if they come up with a lower number and you'd like to, I mean, we can evaluate that at that time, based on what they come up with. So, they're still gonna,
again, I
they're
just,
still gonna come up with a recommendation.
probably just call the question, because I.
Okay.
like I said-
Let's have a roll call vote, Bonnie.
Johnson?
Yes.
Gore Follett?
No.
Wheelock?
No.
Mayor?
No.
Lathrop?
Yeah.
Crawford?
Nope.
Motion failed.
Okay.
I'm out of here.
I stuck with you, Bob.
Bye, Bob. Okay.
Well, we knew that. You
All
already
right,
said
now,
that.
the question about the creation of the compensation commission. If we pass the resolution, we have 30 days
To interview?
Interview and appoint those people.
And appoint them, and then they would begin their work sometime in January, and once, after their first meeting, they have 45 days
to bring us a
complete the
recommendation.
work and bring us a recommendation, yes.
So moved.
Okay? Or we could, okay, we have a motion. I'll second for discussion. So moved by Commissioner Gorfulet, supported by Commissioner Crawford. Are you thinking that you would like to do it later in the year, or,
I've
okay?
had people.
Because Sunny's
I've
hesitating,
had-
so I'm just
I've
asking.
had people approaching me wanting to know how they go about applying. I mean,
Yes.
just people on the street, people at meetings. I mean, you know, people are very interested in this issue, so.
And we also need to discuss, do we have an ad hoc to choose this commission, or is it all of us that would choose this particular commission?
My recommendation would be that all of us participate in that discussion. You know, in a perfect world, I would say that I would
don't
like,
live
that I would like to have a representative from each of our districts to sit on that commission. There's nine people, right? That is required. You know,
No, there's 7.
Is it 7?
Is it 7?
There's 7 districts.
It's 7.
Well, I know there's 7
people.
districts, but is it 7 people on the compensation commission?
Shall be comprised of 7 members.
Okay.
And
You know,
they're very
so-
specific. You have to be residing in the county.
You
It's
can't be
very-
elected,
you can't be
you
elected,
can't
you
be
can't know
family
anybody, you
members,
can't-
yeah.
I
No
mean-
elected, no appointed, no family connections.
Yeah.
Can you find such a person?
I'm wondering, it's a pretty small area.
That's what I said, in a perfect world, I'd like to see, you know, a couple representatives that live in the city, a couple representatives that live in, the, you know, out in the out county. I don't know that you're going to get that.
We can
I really
see who
don't.
applies. Yep.
You know,
So are we going to have the sheriff interrogate these people to find out for sure?
Yes, light bulbs, dripping water.
Oh, you're not
my only-
selling it. You're not
my only
selling it to
concern-
anybody out there.
My only concern was whether or not this was the time, or whether to do the 30-day date and the 45 days if we're too early, if we should be doing this later. Chris, do you have any recommendation about that? Because I'm sure you're familiar with the regulation more than I am.
No, one thing I just want to point out to the board, the way the state statute is written, and this is MCL 45.472, says the chairperson of the County Board of Commissioners shall appoint members subject to confirmation by the majority of members elected and serving on the County Board of Commissioners.
Oh, so we would not interview people, it would be me.
You.
You get to make the appointments.
Well, that doesn't mean you still can't interview.
Or does it?
No,
We
you can
could
still
interview,
Yeah.
but it's my choice.
Your choice, subject to the confirmation of the majority of the board.
But as far as the timing, just so that there's no, the statute does not say that if we were to solicit participation now, that the 45 days would begin to run once we made our selection. It would start to run following their first meeting, correct?
Correct, yes.
Because
Upon
it
their
seems
first
to me that we would want to solicit now before the holidays. I do not want to solicit during the holidays. I think you're going to get a poor turnout, so I would say.
The idea here is the compensation recommended with an effective date of January 1st.
2019.
Well,
so that they need to complete their work and give us a recommendation, and we need to say yay or nay to that recommendation before the...
April.
Before the filing date in
Right.
April, which is the 24th? I think it is.
Sounds about right.
Probably. But this document that's in front of us says 2017, which it
No,
should be
that was,
2017.
that was a memo
That was just an
explaining it.
example.
That wasn't, the dates on
We're
there
good.
are correct.
We have a resolution in our
Yeah.
packet to establish this. So
Yes.
Can we
you-
just accept that and?
Well-
So that's what was moved and I
Yep,
seconded
that's-
it.
Yep.
So if we accept the resolution, it starts the 30-day time clock to
Appoint the
interview
members.
and appoint the members. Yes.
So there's no prescribed length of time for asking people to apply? It could be
No.
as long as we like, right?
As soon as we vote on the resolution, we have to choose these 7 people within the next 30 days.
Oh, okay, that's what, because a minute
Yes, it
ago, it
has
sounded
already
like...
been
Yeah, so what the
advertised.
way the statute reads is the initial members shall be appointed within 30 days
After this
the effective date of the resolution establishing the commission.
Dan.
Okay. I thought a minute ago we said it was wider open
They
for
don't
the
have to
applying.
meet until.
They don't have to meet until January
later.
or February,
Oh, okay.
whenever.
But then they only have 45 days.
Right,
Okay.
Dan.
Okay, I got that part. So the application time is
30 days from now if we do
30
it
days
tonight.
from when we make
Yep.
this vote.
Yep.
Although we asked 2 weeks ago that it be advertised, and I think we've already had a couple of applicants, so,
Well, we said it publicly, so.
yes.
you know,
Dan.
Sort of advertised it, yeah.
It's Dan's turn.
Okay, just wondering, what do we do if we can't find 7 people that, it could be a possibility that you won't have 7 people that want to do this, or you might have 7 that want to do it, but they're excluded because of the exclusions. What happens if we can't find them?
We have
I mean,
we have 90,000 people in this community. I think we can probably find 7 that don't have a direct connection to one of the board members.
Or
Okay.
any employee of the
Or any
county.
county.
Okay, but my question is, what if we don't? Is there,
Then I guess we don't do it.
yeah, but we have to,
It says it shall consist,
yeah.
so that's mandatory.
So if we
Shall-
can't get 7,
within
then...
30 days, if you don't get 7 members, you're done,
There you go.
right?
Yep.
That's kind of how I'm interpreting
Yep,
it.
me
then.
too. I'm not going to
Okay.
worry about it till it
I
happens.
don't think we're going to have a problem.
All right.
So, we're going to vote?
Okay? Let's do a roll call vote. Why not?
Cora Follett,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yeah.
Johnson,
No.
Crawford.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So hopefully for those public people that may have an interest, they will contact the administrator's office and apply for these positions.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda, just pass them that way, is the purchasing policy update. And I think Vicki has something to say.
So at the last board meeting, you requested that we take a look at the purchasing policy and come forward with some recommendations for change. And the areas that you were interested in was multi-year agreements, utilizing the My Deal contract pricing, potentially lowering the thresholds for sealed bids, requiring professional services to be competitively bid, and the administrator approval authority and recurrence of contracts under that authority. So as we've started to look into it, we realize it has ramifications through really all the departments. And so we'd like to take this opportunity to create an interdepartmental committee to get feedback on how this is going to affect all of our departments and our elected officials, and also utilize it as an opportunity to go to more centralized purchasing. So we would like to be able to create that interdepartmental group, if that is of the desire of the board, and be able to come together with a recommendation by the 1st of December.
Thoughts? Cheryl?
Well, in your, next to the last paragraph, you say you're going to update us and let us know about contracts or purchases above 10,000. I would like the opportunity to approve those as opposed to just being provided notice of what they are. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of why we're doing this. We don't want those to continue.
Right, I would agree. I don't have any issues with all contracts coming before the board. I think that's kind of my belief, that the board really should be the signature on any contracts. But there probably are purchases at times that are over 10,000 that, I mean, if you want to say you want to see each one of those, we can do that.
You mean
at
like
this point.
a boiler or a...
Patrol car.
Patrol car or
Yes,
something?
exactly.
No, we've approved
Right,
those.
yeah. I mean, even utility bills potentially could be in excess of $10,000, so, but we're happy to put it at whatever threshold you would like to be
The utility
reviewed.
bill, wouldn't that be under the audit committee?
Well, we'd see it.
Yeah.
We'd see it, but if
But
it's
right
over,
now-
but if we take the threshold down to $10,000 today, just kind of temporarily till they come up with a new purchasing policy, is that what you're
Then that
maybe
means those
suggesting?
purchases will have to wait until
Those
I
purchases
have
wait till they come to
a
us.
forum of all of you.
Well, we meet every 2 weeks.
Yeah, we do.
You know, I don't think there's anything, you know, and obviously we have provisions for emergency purchases. I don't know that there's any purchase that we have to make that's in excess of $10,000 that can't wait until we meet the next time in 2 weeks.
You can always call a special meeting.
And you can always call a
And-
special meeting.
Okay,
Right.
okay, I'm good with
So would that be your motion at this time to temporarily?
That
Go
is
ahead
my
and make your motion.
My motion would be that we would ask the administration to provide us with any new contracts or purchases that exceed $10,000 for a prior approval.
Support.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Gorfulet, supported by Commissioner Wheelock.
I think it's still important that we do the interdepartmental review.
So do I.
Because we have dozens of different departments that are making purchases without necessarily,
Knowing what
you
the
know,
other one's
going
doing.
back and forth and knowing who's buying and who isn't.
We can create some efficiencies there,
And,
I believe.
you know, we've had that discussion over the years with, you know, simple things about trying to do central purchasing for office supplies and some of those kind of things, because, you know, it makes a big difference whether you're buying 2 cases of paper or if you're buying a pallet.
You're right.
Any other, Tom?
I guess my question is, I'm good with new as far as contracts or purchases, but one of the things that's come up in the past is that, you know, somebody could be a consultant to the county, and they aren't at, you know, they're below that for the agreement that they make, but then it goes above that, you know, after, so...
Multiple months.
Pardon?
Multiple months, in other words.
Multiple months, that's right, yeah. So even when we talked about one contractor earlier, that they hadn't reached the 30, they had another contract with us previous to that, and if you added that in, they were over 30, I think, but I'm just guessing.
So where do you stop the line at?
Yeah.
Are you going to say, bring every contract in front of us? I mean,
No.
at some point, we're going to micromanage the heck out of the group and say, all right, just bring everything to us and don't do
No, but I'm
anything
just
till we sign.
concerned about the ones that start small and become larger without another second look at them, so.
I guess my point would be that, you know, as we complete 2017 and we look at the 2018 budget, I'd like to see a list and a reporting of all those consultant-type contracts or other contracts that we have for outside agencies. You know, we know what county employees are providing us for service, but we have obviously, we have contracts in place with a number of other agencies that are providing services to Grand Traverse County. I'd like to at least see a list of those and how much we've paid them in 2017.
Yeah.
Does that include the retired employees that have come back too?
If they're contracted as a consultant, I think.
If they're as a
Well, opposed
consultant,
to
yes.
as an employee
But
versus-
if they come back and they're being paid as an hourly employee, that's an HR issue. That's not a commissioner issue. But I think most importantly is, as we go forward into 2018, we need to evaluate all of these contracts, what we've spent, what we've gotten for them, and whether we want to continue those contracts going into 2018.
Yeah, fine with that.
Well, and my concern is, with all of these, are we competitively bidding, whether it's for a service or whether it's for a product? You know, if you hire somebody and you pay them $6,000 a month, and every month they bill you $6,000, I mean, in a year, that's $72,000. Why are you not bidding that work to see if someone else would be willing to do it for $50,000? I mean, there's just too many occasions where we've had something that started out below a threshold, but over time it has evolved to significantly exceed that threshold, and it hasn't been bid out. And, you know, I mean, Dan wants transparency, and I do too. I want to see that we've done what we can to make sure we're getting the best bang for the buck, getting the best person for the job, whether it's a person or a service.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that takes the purchasing limit down to
You're all set.
$10,000.
Do you understand?
I do.
Got the direction?
Okay. And I believe they asked for a list of...
Yes.
Yes, contractors. Okay, we will look for that to come back in December, right? Okay. So the next thing, I'm going to pass these, everybody take one of these, and take one of these. I have this on here as compliance with property disposal policy. There has been a lot of discussion about an offer coming in unsolicited on the pavilions, and the fact that it was not immediately sent to the commissioners. And so what I did, being that nobody asked what happened when that offer came in. There have been, it seems to me, a lot of assumptions about what went on when this offer came in on September, I think on your little timeline on September 27th. Because I also take my position very seriously, and I do want everyone to know exactly how this came about and why it's being discussed, why it's being discussed in public comment and then in the newspaper. So as you can see, I kind of started out with, on this timeline, that we did adopt a property disposal policy. It was written by our administration in April, and we did adopt it. And I had it added to the packet, so everybody has a copy of that. And it clearly states that the first action to be taken, if we would like to dispose of a piece of property or something that we own, is that the property considered for disposition or sale shall have been determined by the Board of Commissioners through a board-approved resolution to be surplus, obsolete, or underutilized county-owned property. So we adopted that, and there's several other steps. There's quite a few steps after that this goes through before any bids on a property are accepted by the Board of Commissioners. On June 21st, we had a presentation from our council and from John Syke that showed that we actually can't sell the pavilions at this time. Whether they were purchased with bond money or not was irrelevant. It was that there are outstanding bonds. Also, the DHHS board actually governs the pavilions. So that's another obstacle. So never in any of this amount of time since we've had this property disposal policy did anyone make a motion to sell the pavilions or to investigate it at all beyond that. So as you can see as we go across the timeline, there actually was a conference call sometime in August with Commissioner Klaus, Ms. DeHaan and Mr. Menzel, and this Jim Branscombe of Wellbridge, I think that's what it's called, talking about selling the pavilions, possibly. The Record Eagle, in their FOIA request, asked for Commissioner Klaus's personal emails with Mr. Branscombe, because he did provide us 2 weeks ago with a copy of a personal email exchange that he had. And that shows that he actually emailed Mr. Branscombe our new administrator's phone number. Later on, Commissioner Klaus also emailed Mr. Branscombe and said, when you make a proposal regarding the pavilions, make sure you CC the county commissioners. So right up until this offer was received September 27th, Commissioner Klaus didn't let any of us know that this was happening. He knew 1 minute after it was sent to Chris Kramer that it had been sent. He knew it had been sent. He looks like actively working with this person to come up with a bid on the pavilions, and the pavilions is not for sale. So understandably, I think, when this offer comes in, nobody knew it was coming in. To the administrative secretary, it looked like spam. She didn't open it, because you don't open things that you don't know what they are. It was an attachment. She forwarded it on. We can see the succession of things that happened. And so there was a question about, what is this? Nobody knew that this was coming. And so our new administrator asked me, do you know anything about this? What is this? And we asked Chris Forsyth, legal counsel, what do we do with this? It is so far out of the policy of disposing of property. What do we do with it? And so you can see here, you can read all of this that had happened. And in the end, it was determined that there was a little bit more investigation that kind of needed to that happen with this, because nobody knew this was coming. Nobody was informed that this was being discussed at all. And so it would have been helpful to know that this was going on outside of the policy. One commissioner is apparently having some sort of negotiations or talks with someone to sell something that we don't have for sale. That particular commissioner also has a conflict of interest. Commissioner Klaus owns portions of properties that compete with the pavilions. And so even Mr. Gilman's comments today saying that, you know, this should only happen if something is a sensitive thing. I think this is a very sensitive thing. The Pavilions is not a park. It's not the Civic Center. The Pavilions is someplace where people live. This is a vulnerable population, and I believe it is sensitive. You're talking about selling someone's home out from under them. And so, being that it was so far out of the policy, and being that it was of a sensitive nature, we consulted about it, and it was being further investigated to see if it was a real offer, to see what do we do about this. So I just wanted everybody to know that, to be clear that nothing was being hidden, nothing was being kept. I didn't direct anybody to do anything. This was so far, and this is not day-to-day county business, this was so far out of the ordinary that, and it didn't have to be that way. If anyone with the commissioners or the administration had been notified that this was happening, it would have been different. And even after the offer came in, anybody could have called and asked what happened. Yes, Dan?
I can see how this would be confusing, and but nonetheless, we have a public process. It is sensitive, it is confusing, it is, what can I say, it's awkward, but that email was meant to come to us. And I don't think that the two of you should be able to make the decision when it gets to us, or any of that kind of stuff. You could have done both. You could have sent it to us, and what we should have done, it should have been sent to us, and then we should have this discussion. And then this board should direct Vicki to what to do. You switch that bass-ackwards. And I think that's wrong. I think that there's a lot of ways that information reaches administration and reaches the board. It could be a letter, it could be an email, it could be a fax. If it's meant for our consumption, it should come to us. I don't think we need you to filter it.
So-
I have questions.
Okay, and so that's my point, that's my only point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, for me, it's not about the pavilions.
Mm-hmm.
It's about transparency. My public needs to know this stuff,
Okay?
and I
so-
represent them.
So I would like to respond two things to that before I go on to Cheryl. I agree. And I will say that there was 3 of us in that room, and I didn't direct anybody specifically to do anything or not do anything.
Well, it still happened amongst the 3 of you, not amongst the 7 of us.
Okay? But but also, transparency. So let's shift. Okay, I get your point on that. Okay? I do. This
Will you do
timeline
this-
does
Will
not
you do
show...
this again? Will you do this again?
Absolutely not.
Well, then
However-
admit it was wrong, and let's just get on with it.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
On with it. Now, on with this.
All right.
In the interest of transparency, Commissioner Klaus should have let us all know that this was happening. Commissioner Klaus took it upon himself to solicit a bid on a piece of property that we do not have for sale. So if we are going to talk about transparency, I think that needs to be out there and needs to be discussed. Because I believe on June 21st, it was abundantly clear that this piece of property, this particular facility that we own is not for sale.
Well, then I
He
think...
never made a motion to ask for it to be sold, nothing of that sort, and this was all done out
When
of
Klaus
all
gets
of
here, let's
us.
talk to him about that.
Absolutely,
Now,
please.
let me ask you something. Did anyone, who's the man that made a bid on this building?
His name is Jim Branscombe
By the
with
way, I don't want to
Wellbridge.
sell it either.
No, okay.
That's not my issue. Did any one of you call him and talk to him?
Vicki did.
I did speak to him, and I
what
did tell
kind of
him.
questions did you ask? What did you say to him, Vicki?
You know, I'm gonna just suggest that that's not the point, and that's not what this discussion is about. I mean, if you want to talk to her about that, that's not your issue. Your issue was that they didn't get you the information, so they've apologized, they've said that they won't do it again.
It will
I
not
guess
happen
I'd like to hear you say whether you think what Ron Close did was appropriate or not, because it doesn't seem like you see where any of this is the result of Ron overstepping. Do you think he did anything wrong?
I don't know yet.
What do you mean? You just saw a timeline of what happened. Do you disbelieve
Well,
that?
Are we allowed as commissioners to talk to other people about these things?
I'm guessing you've talked to Ron quite a bit about this.
No, he means, I think he means, are we allowed as commissioners to go out and solicit bids on something that is not for sale? I don't believe we are. The policy absolutely is very clear.
Are we allowed to, I didn't do this, all right?
No,
so
I know.
Are we allowed to talk to other people about these kinds of things and get their advice? And this guy's a professional, right? And he's...
Who? Who are you talking about?
Is it Branson?
Branscombe.
Branson.
No, we're not. We have a policy. We made a decision as a board in June that the pavilions was not for sale. We talked about what we were going to sell and what we weren't going to sell. And the pavilions was something that we all decided we were not going to sell. It was not for sale.
And so if this man could come here and talk to us and show us that it could be sold and we were wrong, shouldn't we know that?
Well,
That's not what happened.
he had to come right here and do that. He shouldn't have a private conversation, apparently multiple private conversations with a commissioner, who then encourages him to contact our administrator before she even has been, officially sworn in as our administrator, and do all of this behind-the-scenes stuff.
I'll answer your question
Okay.
after I hear what Klaus has to say about it.
Okay? We can hear what he has to say when he returns.
Pardon?
We can hear what he has to say when he returns.
Okay.
I can put it on for November
I don't want
15th.
he's not here.
That's fine. And I wrestled with bringing this up here at the meeting when he's not here, or waiting until he returns. But I felt it was best to talk about
I thought this particular thing was not going to be about communication. I thought this was going to be about a policy of selling things.
It is about the policy of selling things, and I actually see here where the policy was violated. The policy was definitely violated.
Repeatedly.
And I will tell you that when the offer came in, I saw it as, if it did get forwarded to all the commissioners, that the policy would be further violated, because forwarding the bids onto the commissioners is way down in the timeline in the policy. So honestly, I did think that I brought the policy to the administrator's attention, and I mean, in all fairness, I really did think that I wasn't directing, but I did point out that sending bids out to the commissioners is one of the last steps, and we haven't done any of the first steps. So had it been forwarded out to the commissioners, it would have further violated the policy, in my opinion. So that's why it was determined that there had to be more investigation. Is this a joke? Is it a real officer?
Of course I don't agree with that.
Okay,
All right, I mean,
You don't agree?
I can see how could, I
get it.
understand it.
Yeah.
And I'm not condemning either one of you. I think a lot of all of us on this board. I just think that transparency trumps.
Fair enough, and it will not happen again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yes, Chris, please.
So I just want to speak about Wellbridge's offer, their letter of intent, because there is a lot of due diligence involved to figure out if this board can sell the pavilions. So I think it would be helpful for this board to either just pass a motion, because even though it was discussed in June, I don't think the board officially adopted a motion one way or the other what to do with the pavilions. And so I'd like to, my recommendation, it's a recommendation, you don't have to follow it, but it would be helpful for me and my due diligence to have a resolution in place right now, citing to section B7, or I'm sorry, I have it backwards, 7B of the policy.
Okay, I want to respond to that. Can I?
Yes, Dan.
Okay, there's two things. One, if we pass this, and I'm in favor of passing it, I want to ask you about the word obsolete, but if we pass this, does that mean that this could happen again, that a bid could come in, or an email could come in, and it wouldn't be...
No, it will be forwarded.
This would somehow side skirt transparency. Okay. Nextly, you said in order for us to dispose of properties, we have to call them obsolete. Can you explain that to me? Because why couldn't we sell a building, and let's not say the pavilions. I don't know what it is. It could be this building. Maybe we just need the money. It's not obsolete.
Then it's surplus or underutilized.
But, I mean, it's your policy. It's your policy. And, the way I look at it, there's the communication issue and transparency, but then there's the second issue of this is the board's policy. The board adopted this policy, and I would like to see the steps carried out in the policy if the board really is considering disposing of the pavilions.
The words, Dan, are surplus, obsolete, or underutilized. Okay, those are the
okay.
three. It's not
Okay,
just
cool.
obsolete.
Okay.
It wasn't just obsolete.
Yeah, because I don't want to just have to declare a piece of property obsolete.
You don't have to.
Okay.
You'd have to declare it surplus or
And I want to make clear, this will not
underutilized.
circumvent transparency.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Bob?
Yeah, I mean, I thought we kind of put this to bed
Months ago.
before, and
Well, let's officially do it.
I have issues with that, because then we're going to have to do a resolution for every building.
No.
You know, I mean, to me, the fact that we didn't do any action should say that we're not interested in selling it at this point.
I think
So-
that it would help for, what my big concern was, that it is a sensitive issue. It is a sensitive issue because people live there, and they're a vulnerable population of people, and that every time it comes up, those people get afraid. And it's not right to keep scaring those people and those employees every time this comes up. Yes.
Madam Chairman, I would move that the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners goes on official record that the Grand Traverse Pavilions is not for sale.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Gorfulet. Any further discussion?
Again, I just don't even think it's necessary to say that,
Okay.
because I think
Our council's
de facto, I know, I respect Chris greatly. so-
Obviously, there are those that think that it is still under consideration that we would sell the pavilions, otherwise we wouldn't even be having this discussion.
Right.
And I wouldn't have seen 22 emails when I got back from Louisiana this week, so.
We'd like it to be crystal clear.
You know, if we just pass a resolution that Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners goes on record that the Grand Traverse Pavilions is not for sale. We should be done with this.
That doesn't mean it can't ever go on sale. It means right now, it's not for sale.
Correct.
Oh, I know. I mean,
There you go.
Tom, did you have a comment?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Wait, if you say it's not for sale, how long does it last then?
Until we decide that it's for sale, in which case we would publicly make a statement and have to vote to approve that.
Until it is moved that we would like to sell it.
It
I
would
think
take
that all
board
discussion
action to
about
put
is
it on the
done.
market.
All the discussion about selling the pavilion should be finished until someone brings up a motion and says, let's sell it.
I'd like the board to consider accepting, RFPs to sell the pavilions, and then we'd have to vote on whether we wanted to do that or not. In other words, one person, you couldn't go out and start soliciting bids. You'd have no authority to do that. Unless you came to the board and said, I think I've got a great plan for selling it, and I would like the board to pass a motion to accept RFPs to sell it.
And it needs to stop coming up in conversation as far as, well, we could just sell the pavilions, and then people say that, and then somebody's upset, and then people are afraid, and it just continues on when it needs to be clear that it is not. Tom?
Right now.
Well, I'd like to know that we all agree that the pavilions isn't for sale at this time, that we
Right.
take Chris Forsyth's advice, and that we stop discussing it like we're going to change our mind in a second, because the people who live there, as you brought up, is really one of the most serious things, that we're throwing people in for a loop, wondering what our intentions are. And we also have to always remember that the pavilions has a board, and you're on that board, actually.
I'm an ex officio member.
That's right, yeah. And I think we have to have better communication, and there should never be a slip-up about whether we're, doing something that we haven't discussed with one of the boards that has some authority over the same thing. Goes with Parks and Rec, the same thing. That's why we had a joint meeting recently, is to try to improve that communication.
That's why I think the motion is appropriate in that it officially says that we are not going to sell it. Before any discussion can ever happen again, that the pavilions is for sale, this board or future board will have to make a vote by the majority of the members that we're going to have discussion again about selling it.
But we already have that in place in our
Well,
policy.
we don't.
I said, I just struggle with the redundancy of this.
I know, I just want to send a message that I want it to be crystal clear, that we are saying no at this time.
If I could just say one more thing. I mean,
Yes.
for the benefit of Jim Branscombe and the Wellbridge Group, I think that needs to be communicated to him.
It is not for sale.
Obviously, this gentleman put some time and effort into investigating the pavilions and what the asset was. He's willing to make a payment of $10 million. I don't offer $10 million even if I had it of Mr. Johnson's money. We don't, without doing some investigating that there was value there. But the point is, we've wasted this board's time, we've wasted the staff's time, and we've wasted Mr. Branson's time because we have no interest in selling the property.
So, I mean, this is a public process, and we need to go through this process publicly, as Dan said, transparency. This wasn't gone through publicly, it needs to, and so we need to say, until it does this, it's not for sale.
Call the question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, Bonnie?
Wheelock?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Lathrop?
No.
Johnson?
Yes.
Gorfulet?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes. Done. Thank you. Let's move on, please. Now, we have a communication policy or board rules update. I had this on there for discussion. It kind of goes with what we already talked about, as far as information that comes in, how does it get disseminated, information that, asking for information, I thought it would be worthwhile having a discussion about what is it that we really want, communication-wise, between the commissioners and the administration. Any interest in discussing that at this point? Or you want to table it and talk about it another time? I think we already have, but...
I mean, I understand the concerns for, being open and making sure everything gets to us, and there's also a need to vet some of this stuff. quite frankly, I probably would have done the same thing if I was in your position. I would have just said, hey, let me look at this first. Maybe I'd have thought, let the commissioners know that we had something that we're reviewing, but, so I don't know. It's a fine line.
It could have easily been you in the office. I happen to have been in the office.
Yeah.
It could have been you, and they could have asked you. I mean, I happen to be
Like
there.
I said, it's a fine line of instantly, when you get something, sending it to us. But we also don't want to get into the habits of, well, I'll let the board know what they need to know from me.
Yeah.
So.
But I think it's subjective, and it's going to have to be somewhere in between. And in this case,
I mean, our
in this case,
email
this is how it went,
inboxes
and you
could
didn't
get
like how it
flooded.
went, you brought it to our attention. I think that's all that needs to happen, is if something doesn't go the way that you think it should have, I don't think there needs to be all this drama about it. Can you ask?
Wait a minute, how would I have known until someone told me? It was hidden until Klaus got up there and talked about it. So don't say to me, you can come and ask me.
Well, true.
What do I do? Every week say, what are you hiding
Well,
from me?
hidden is a strong word. It wasn't hidden. It was being vetted.
How would I, but you just said I could come and ask. How would I know to come and ask?
Fair enough.
And that's where I said,
Fair enough. Yeah, there's an issue with that.
if they would have said we had something of interest that we're looking at, that,
Had Commissioner Klaus let us know that was coming, that would have been helpful too.
I would
To know that it
suspect
was coming.
that staff, upon their review, would have provided us with the appropriate information. I'm pretty sure, they were checking it, obviously Vicki was reviewing it, Chris was reviewing it. I think trying to throw Carol or Chris under the bus is probably inappropriate. The bottom line is they were just investigating whether or not, number one, whether the pavilions is for sale, because I, like Commissioner Johnson, thought that we'd already had this discussion.
Me too.
So if this wasn't for sale, why are we soliciting bids on this parcel of property?
Right.
But again, we're now talking about communications, not the pavilions.
Okay, well then we'll talk about communications. So if a commissioner is out doing this and knows that something's coming in that needs to be distributed to the commissioners, it would have been good to know.
Okay.
It would have been good to know,
And-
hey, I talked to this person, they're going to
Right.
send you something, please make sure all the commissioners get it. That would have been great, but that didn't happen either.
Well,
That was kept
and
from
Dan,
us as
I
well.
would have to guess that if you were to go through your emails, you would see that there've been a number of occasions where I have sent emails to all of you because I've had something on my mind, and so I've sent it to every commissioner so that you wouldn't be caught by surprise when you got to a meeting because I had something on my mind. I mean,
Well, yeah, that's cool, yeah.
well, it's totally cool, and that's called transparency, and that's called I'm trying to keep you in the loop. And
And
so
that's
my
something that I would
question
have
is,
liked to have
why in the name of heaven could Ron Klaus have not sent all of us an email saying, I've been talking to this guy named Jim Branscombe for about 3 months now about selling the pavilions? I mean, bingo bango, he's got access to our emails, just like I have access to your emails.
that's something you have to
We could have, well, I understand,
talking about
Dan, but you keep
communication here.
talking about communication, and it's like, it has to be universal. We all have to be on the same page, and we can't have one person kind of off doing their stuff, and then the rest of us getting sucked into this vortex of being painted with a dirty brush because somebody really didn't do what they should have done. Because Ron should have told all of us about this months ago, maybe back in August when he was having telephone conferences with Jen and Tom Menzel and other people. That was, let's see, 2 months after we'd had the meeting in June that we were not going to sell the pavilions. That might have been the time to let us know he was having this conversation, so.
So, yes, we all have to abide by it if we're, we all have to know that we have to let each other know. And if you can always send Chris Kramer a memo saying, here's what I've been thinking, here's what I would like to do. You can send it to Vicki, you can, and they'll make sure that.
And we will be sure to make sure you all get it.
Absolutely, that we
Well,
all get it.
I'll be very interested in what Ron has to say to defend himself.
When we all.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so do we need an official policy on this, or can we go on and try to form some sort of trust here that everybody's going to act like ladies and gentlemen and do what they're supposed to do and let us know?
I'm willing to do that.
Act like ladies and gentlemen and
And let's just
let's
move
just,
forward.
And I believe there's a way that anyone that emails Grand Traverse County can email it to countycommissioners@grandtraverse.org. And it automatically disseminates
a lot
that
of those,
information
so-
to all of us.
Yes.
on
You
our
know,
webpage is my picture, and under it, it says contact us, I believe, and if you click it comes to all of us.
But my point is, not everybody, I know I'm not, I don't know how to email all of you. I
Now you do,
approached
Commissioner.
Chris.
Well, there's a fine,
And you
there's
should-
also, there's
you
a fine
should-
line between that emailing all of us.
Yeah, it's
with the-
supposed to go to Chris Kramer for dissemination or to
Yeah.
Vicky.
So I'm
Yes.
saying, no matter how it comes, if it comes by fax or a letter, if someone requests the information come to us, it should come to us.
Okay,
Okay?
Not as long as it's not.
absolutely.
Moving on.
It's just information.
Moving on. We're all good.
I'm just
beyond-
amazed
we're
you called me a
beyond good.
gentleman.
I am counting on you to be a gentleman in this, right?
Yep.
I
Okay.
don't know.
Okay, let's move on, please. New business.
So move.
Okay,
Northern Lakes
let me
Community-
say what it is
Northern Lakes
first.
Community Mental Health Appointments. I would move that we appoint
Nicole Miller.
Nicole Miller for, reappoint her for the remainder of the 3-year term ending in March of 2020 in a general citizen position, and that we appoint Dr. Carol Anderson for the same term ending in March 31, 2020 in the mental health provider representative capacity.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Gorfulet, supported by Commissioner Wheelock. Any discussion? Yes, Bob?
You know, I'm still, more of these ad hoc committees I'm on when we do interviews, I'm just blown away at the amount of people and the quality of people we're
Yes.
getting. I mean, it makes it tough to make these decisions because you
Yes.
really feel bad because you've got quality candidates here. So it's a good and bad thing to have, you know, because they've really upped it. You know?
I'm pretty sure that we don't have the issue that Dr. Lathrop mentioned earlier, that we're not going to find qualified candidates.
Yeah, we
Because
are.
Well,
every
no, I'm
position
just-
we
I get scared
advertise,
easy. What do you-
every time we advertise for positions, we get two or three times as many candidates as we possibly
all
have vacancies to fill.
extraordinary. And they're all
they're great
extraordinary.
people.
And it is hard.
Well,
And
Lathrop's a scaredy cat.
we had 2 gentlemen that applied for this that were very good. But they are also interested in other boards, so we will keep their applications on file for those other boards they were interested in as well. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Now is our chance for second public comment.
Good, Hilkus.
Have they all dozed off?
Andy?
Can you give him a minute?
Commissioner Johnson is suggesting that we give you less than the allotted 3 minutes.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yes.
Andy Merrick, 2875 East Railroad Avenue. Wow. You guys had a breakdown. Policy wasn't followed. And a gatekeeper stopped the information from continuing to break that policy, and people are upset about that. I'd be upset about the policy not being followed more than I would about the information not being passed on until it's properly vetted, so that the new administrator isn't violating the policy that you guys just put in place. Wow. If you don't like the policy, you want all the information sent to you right away, change the policy. If you want to solicit bids on anything, change the policy. But you have a policy in place on how it's supposed to go and needs to be followed by everybody. The commissioners, the administration, and their staff. Thank you for doing your job. Thank you for not continuing a breakdown on what was going on until you knew what was supposed to happen. Thanks for taking the time to look at the policy and making sure you're doing what the board directed you to do through that policy. At least from what I can tell. I hope that you continue to go forward doing the good work of the people of the community. I know you all mean well. But if you set a policy, you need to follow it. Or else you change the policy, you have that power. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roth?
John Roth, what the heck is my address? 9541 Amadon, Long Lake Township, Grand Traverse County, Traverse City, Michigan, 49685. I wanted to just add on Andy's and clarify with you guys. You all talked about if you do want to sell the pavilions, you need a motion to sell the pavilions. No, you don't. You need a motion to go back and look at your policy if it can be sold. So do it in the right way, guys. That's the same as Parks and Rec. If we want to sell something, we don't say, hey, I want to sell something. You have to go back to your policy and look at, can it be sold first? So just a little clarification, when you guys were talking about selling the pavilions, that it could be just made in a motion. It can't be. You have to go back to your policy and look if it can even be sold. Just wanted to just make sure that's clear. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else for second public comment? No? Yes, sir. Your turn.
Neighbors, Mike Stymack, 3442 Zimmerman Road in Garfield Township. And I came here to listen to the Drain Commissioner argument today. I missed, unfortunately. But I'm looking at pictures of our town in the past, and I don't see a lot of pavement there. I see a lot of dirt, permeable surfaces, and so forth. And things are changing. And in my case, which is one of the Cass Road properties that you have seen that floods, as others do, and interrupts business and affects investors and other things, that occurs as a result of impermeable surfaces like we have up the hill. We paved the mountain up where the malls are. Walmart and Home Depot and the large mall. There's a lot of beneficiaries of those properties. Shoppers, economical shopping. It's a great hub for our business atmosphere in the area. But what happens as a result of that, and we continue to do more of it, is we continue to pave, and that needs to be managed. When we, you can make a retention pond for your little local area, and it seems correct engineering-wise. Yes, we can manage, but when it paves to the extent that we've paved the mountain, those localized areas actually dump water that we've never seen before down the hill onto either township or county property, and that property sheds the water onto private property. That is occurring. And coming up on 3 years ago, we had, excuse me, we had a different drain commissioner. I really don't know any of them. The last one I talked to was Maureen Templeton many years ago. But the previous drain commissioner held a meeting, said we've got an issue, we need a drainage district. It was approved by the board, a representative, and I think John was on that board possibly. But nothing's taken place from that point on. I say nothing. I've hired an engineering firm, I think spent a fair amount of money with the engineering firm to do a study, but no traction. I think we've got some information, but no movement on things. I wouldn't do the job that Steve does for free or for low compensation. He's got a lot of work. That's just one location at Cass Road, and he's got a county to take care of. I will say that the day after he was elected, I do have a vested interest in knowing the progress in this area. I called Steve the day after he was elected, didn't know him, and he spent his 4-hour weekly allotment with me on the property the first day that I met him. So I know how his time can get burned up pretty easily.
You can continue your thought.
Well, thank you. So what I'm saying is that even if you've got to sort of tax some of the businesses that are benefiting up the mountain, my business, others surrounding on Cass Road, and others in the county, to support a position like Steve's, you really need to do it. We're a developing area here. You can't go without representation. You've got to have somebody that can push the ball down the road and get something done here. So that's, I say you got to. I'm not giving you instructions, but it seems logical to me that it's a necessary position in a paid position. I couldn't do it as a volunteer. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Andy Smits, 402 Leeward Trail in Traverse City, Michigan. First, it's been a long night. Thank you for your service to our county. And I'll be short with my comments because you've gone through a lot this evening. I'm here for 2 points. First, it's my opinion, I think an informed opinion, that the funding for the office of the Drain Commissioner needs to be increased. Second point I'd like to leave you with is another opinion, that if you need to get to an agreement with that first opinion, you should perform an audit or do some benchmarkings between this county's Drain Commission and another county with similar soils, similar development histories, a similar number of drains. While you're doing that, I would suggest you also look at the rest of the obligations that the Drain Commission has under various laws besides their drain code. The Drain Commissioner is responsible under the Land Division Act to review plats, platted land, subdivisions of land, completely unrelated to the drain code, but it's an obligation of the office. This county has a fee structure that it charges for that function. It is ridiculously small. In fact, I don't think the form has been amended for about 14 years. And it's, in my opinion, based on what it takes to do a land division application, that the fee you're charging probably couldn't even cover the cost of receiving the application and archiving the file, let alone doing an engineering evaluation of the drainage within that subdivided land. So I think you've got some work to do if you're to come to the understanding that I have that the office is woefully underfunded. Now, having made my points, I'll share with you that I've got experience working with this county's Drain Commission office on a very limited basis. I've done an informal audit of the records. I've looked at the roles and responsibilities of the Drain Commission. But I have worked professionally as an engineer with drain commissions across the state throughout the course of my 30 years in practice. Somewhat knowledgeable, and I think that my points are very defensible in this regard. So I encourage you to do some benchmarking, do an audit if you need to. You'll come to the same conclusion that I have. This is way underfunded, and if the waters of our Great Lakes, the waters of our region, are part of the reason that people want to live here and part of the reason that our economy is vibrant, then you'll take care of them by doing that soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we will close the second public comment. We will go on to commissioner and department reports. I have one, and I'm going to read it, because it came across today. That I want to congratulate our Deputy Dispatch Director, Leah Hornacek. Leah successfully qualified for and passed the Emergency Number Professional, the ENP certification exam. The certification is earned through the National Emergency Number Association and provides an acknowledgement and formal recognition of professional achievement in 911. She, along with our dispatch team here in Grand Traverse County, are committed to serving our community with the highest level of dedication and excellence. Well done, Leah. So we congratulate Leah Hornacek on that. If you are on Facebook at Grand Traverse 911, she's also responsible for most of the very funny little posts. So she's excellent at her job. Congratulations, Leah. Yay. Cheryl?
I wanted to report that the Parks and Rec is doing a master planning meeting on October 26th, and that is for public participation, trying to gather some public input on a master plan for Parks and Rec. And again, it's on 10/26 right here at the Governmental Center. They're having a 3 o'clock session and a 7 p.m. session. If you're at all interested in that, go to the GrandTraverseCounty.org and click on the Parks and Rec link, and that will give you some more information about that process.
You didn't need that.
And I have 2 questions that I want to ask when we're done with this.
Okay. Sonny?
Grand Traverse County Land Bank Authority met at 4:30 this afternoon. You may or may not recall, about 3 years ago, the county treasurer foreclosed on a piece of property at the corner of US 31 and Rennie School Road, a 70-acre parcel of property. We have tried to market that piece of property for a while. The property has if I recall, about $67,000 a year water and sewer assessment on it by Blair Township when they were selling bonds for their last sewer and water project. There was a developer that owned the property at the time that was having discussion about putting in a large water park. So they sized the water and sewer system for that parcel of property based on that possible development. The development never happened, and Blair Township has a sizable bond issue outstanding to pay for that development, including the extended water and sewer system. We've tried to sell the unit as a total unit. It was decided a few months ago that we were willing to have discussion about selling it in pieces. The frontage property along US 31 for commercial development, we looked at it with the help of Kevin Indris from 3 West. We looked at marketing the property for, I believe, $125,000 an acre if it was small pieces, or $85,000 an acre if they were buying the frontage. We received an offer for 18 acres along the front to the tune of $85,000 an acre, so $1.5 million. And we signed the Land Bank Authority, authorized the signature of the letter of intent to sell that property this afternoon. We do have a developer that's looking at developing the center section, and a possible developer for the back section of that parcel of property. If you're familiar with the property at all, it has some significant topographical issues, particularly on the center section as far as I'm concerned, but we do have developers interested in this. This will be commercial property. It's one development, one owner to develop the 18 acres. We also were fortunate we completed a traffic study. MDOT has authorized, at least on a preliminary study, to install a traffic light at the corner of Rennie School Road and US 31.
Wow.
For those of us that go in and out of that area at all, that will be huge. We may remember back a couple years ago, there was a traffic light installed at that location for about 3 months while they re-engineered and rebuilt Chum's Corners. But it was immediately taken out when Chum's Corners was reopened. And, you know, if you've ever come out of Sherwin-Williams and sat behind 3 Elmer's trucks trying to get out onto US 31 and make a left-hand turn, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. But the stipulation in the letter of agreement says we have the first round studies that say that the traffic light is done, but the developer will be responsible for total costs of paying that. I have to, that's all the great news, but I do have to tell you, number one, Blair Township still has an outstanding assessment on that property of $1.3 million. So of the 1.5 that we'll get for selling the property, the realtor is going to get his piece, and $1.3 million will go to Blair Township to pay for the water assessment. But we will get development on that parcel of property. It will immediately go back on the tax roll, and also all of the other 2 portions of the property, we will no longer have any obligation to Blair Township toward the assessment. So when the other 2 sections of the property are sold, that money will be Grand Traverse County money, and we will have discussion about how that will be distributed at that point.
Nice.
But I'm very excited that we have finally sold that piece of property. It's been on the market for a while, and the decision to go ahead and split it by the Land Bank Authority, I think, is very justified. It was a great discussion when we had it, and I'm very excited to say that it's now been sold. The purchaser has 180 days to do due diligence. He makes a minimal contribution at this point. If he chooses not to sign the final letter, then he gets his $10,000 or whatever it is back. But at least at this point, we have a commitment and a letter of intent for a development on that parcel of property.
Awesome.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, the remaining land that's for sale that we can use if it sells, do you have any idea what that's worth?
Well, it's a 70-acre parcel, and we just sold 18, so there's still 50 acres there. Of the 50 acres, I'm going to say probably 40 acres of it's developable, depending on what you want to do with it. One of the developers along the back parcel of the property, the adjacent property is being used for multifamily housing. So there's some move to do that, and at least enter into
It's
some sort
valuable.
of discussion.
3.4 million if they bought it all for the 85,000.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know, and we knew that the front parcels were the most valuable, and in an attempt to, you know, move some of this property and turn some of it into cash, and to help Blair Township
Blair.
with meeting their financial obligation for the bond, you know, this is a huge decision, and it should be great for Grand Traverse County and for Blair Township, and there's a development going on the parcel of property that will immediately go on the tax.
And give a traffic light.
There you go.
That too.
Yep.
But I, you know, I'm just very pleased to announce that has been approved.
Anybody else? Okay.
Questions, too?
Okay.
I just wondered if we could have an update on the RFPs for the audit, if those have gone out yet?
No, but they're going to be issued early next week.
Okay. And my other question is, it's my understanding that Beta is going to begin providing free busing for seniors, and we haven't heard anything about that, so I'm wondering if we could be updated on why Beta's offering free busing, and is it really free, and what's it going to cost us, and
I just heard that today.
why we haven't
and I
heard
think
about
it's
it before
for
today.
The, is it the COA? Jen just mentioned it today in a different meeting, but it was for 90 days, and it's related to the COA.
Right, but I mean, then what happens? And why was it bid out, or is Beta the only one that's given the opportunity? We just
We won't
heard
get an update
tonight
for you, that's all
that
I
there's
know.
a taxi that's providing, you know, rides for,
I'm the chairman of Beta. Let me look into that for you.
okay.
Okay, and I'll find out the answer.
Well, I'd like to
Yeah.
find out before we enter into some sort of an agreement with them as to whether, you know, there's a long-term commitment, why we didn't bid it out, if there's a cost.
Probably the best person to answer that would be Kelly Ark, our CEO of Beta. I'm sure she could inform you. I will give you her number.
Yeah, because I guess, are they using vouchers from the COA
I
to
don't
cover?
know. I don't know.
I know that they're trying to give veterans
I saw that in the
a
paper.
thing, and they're also letting
Or somewhere.
some children, 5 or under, go for free. I think they're trying to increase their ridership, get younger people on the buses.
Well, let's just keep in mind that the buses aren't free. We all pay a fairly significant millage, and we're asked to renew it periodically, so
Yeah.
it's not free.
Okay.
We're paying for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
we're
can-
paying for it.
I agree.
To November 1st, and we'll have an update.
That'd be great.
on that.
Thank you.
That's easy to get information about.
All right.
Investigate that.
Thank you.
Anything else? No. Okay. Notices, next week, I think, have a study session for the budget?
We do.
We do.
25th.
Okay, that's good.
And we should have copies out to you on Friday of this week.
Okay.
Is that 5:30 as usual?
Uh-huh.
It is.
It's a study
Wednesday.
session, so that's the only thing that we'll be talking about in that meeting.
I'm looking
You be there, Bob? You're looking like you might not be.
The only thing.
The only thing, the one topic, yes. And November 15th, we will have the 2% grants will be presented to the board for support. Your favorite?
You know what week that is, right?
I
It
don't have any
involves
knowledge of
helpless
what week that
animals.
is.
No, they're not helpless.
All right.
Will they have high-powered rifles in their little feet?
They can kick you.
Okay, moving on. Come on,
Stop
I know
it,
it's
you
late,
two.
but
She wants to
let's
say.
move along. We have a closed session. Do we have the motion? I need that. Thank you. I would move that we go into closed session per MCL 15.268C and 15.268E for the purpose of discussing with Labor Council possible settlement regarding unfair labor practices charges filed by the POAM, COAM, and TPOAM regarding employee health insurance payment, PA 152, and contract negotiations for various bargaining units.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Crawford, supported by Commissioner Johnson.
We expected to have any
Yeah. Any,
action that will be afterwards, just so
Yes.
the public knows?
we may.
up to you, but I think there's a possibility.
We may come out of closed session and have a vote, yes. Roll call vote, please, Bonnie.
Mayor?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yep.
Johnson?
Yes.
Gorfulet?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Crawford?
Yes. So we'll be back.
Can we take 5 or 10 here?
Yes, we can have a restroom break briefly.
We're all here.
Madam Chairman, I move we come out of closed session.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Gorfulet to come out of closed session. Roll call vote, please, Bonnie. Yeah.
Lathrop?
Yeah.
Johnson?
Yes.
Gorfulet?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes. Okay. Based on our closed session, I move that we approve the attached letters of understanding with the POAM Corrections Unit and TPOAM Central Records Unit and authorize the board chairwoman to sign same. Both LOUs have been approved and signed by the union bargaining agent, and this motion repeals all prior inconsistent motions.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Wheelock. Roll call vote, please.
Johnson?
Yes.
Gorfulet?
Yes.
Klaus? Oops, sorry, he's gone. Wheelock?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yep.
Crawford?
Yes. Okay. I move that we approve the attached settlement agreements to resolve the POAM Corrections Unit and TPOAM Central Records Unit unfair labor practice charges and grievances concerning PA 152, and authorize Labor Council to sign same. Settlement agreements have been signed by the union attorney, and this motion repeals all prior inconsistent motions.
Support.
Seconded by Lathrop.
Okay.
Roll call vote, please.
Gorfulet?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yep.
Johnson?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes. I move that we settle with the POAM Deputies Unit and COAM Sergeants Unit their unfair labor practice charges and grievances concerning PA 152 pursuant to the attached settlement agreements. The settlement agreements have been signed by the union attorney, and this motion repeals all prior inconsistent motions.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Gorfulet. Roll call vote, please.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yep.
Johnson?
Yes.
Gorfulet?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.